Juwan stands up while grabbing his arm where Sahan broke it and orders his men to get him, but Jisoo stops them and warns them that no one will leave that place without her permission. Then everybody started to attack Jisoo. Jisoo swung her mace and looking at them menacingly. She swung her mace at the guy's head and completely destroyed it, and the other guys were surprised by her skills. She uppercut another guy, knocking him out, but one of them successfully sneaked behind her and tried to stab her in the back. But she still dodged it and swung her mace at the guy, destroying half of him, and her Celestial Slayer skills started to glow more. 3 guys attacked her at the same time. She ducks and smashes one in the face, dodges the one who attacks her from the side, and swings her mace again. Another guy attacks her, but she swiftly dodges his attack and smashes another guy's head. She was surrounded by 30 enemies, but she wasn't having any trouble fighting all of them. Juwan started to move and thinks that he has the advantage over Jisoo because he's the avatar chosen by Hades. He activated the skill called Death Sentence. If you get hit by any attack from him, your death will be guaranteed within a minute. Jisoo just attacks everyone who comes after her, killing them all with just one swing. When Juwan tries to get close to Jisoo, his field of vision suddenly changes and the world looks upside down, but in reality, Jisoo just blows his head and hand out of his body with one swing effortlessly. On Sahan's side, Mina asked him if it's fine to leave Jisoo alone, but Sahan knows that she's already strong, and even Juwan at this stage is no match for her. Moments later, the two of them reach the place where the basilisks reside. Sahan promises that he will give Mina at least 2,000 points, plus some additional rewards, depending on what the boss will give them. Sahan instructed her to transform into a weasel. When they entered the room, they saw a lot of people turned into stone. In the center of the room is the basilisk. The basilisk talked and introduced itself as Orga. Unlike the Minotaur, this one got a name because this boss was made properly, unlike the Minotaur, who was forced into the game. When fighting the basilisk Orga, the biggest problem is when it uses the ability called the Petrifying Gaze, which turns everything into stone. Mina is scared to do what Sahan told her to do, but then Sahan throws Mina toward the basilisk. Petrifying Gaze has a cooldown, and that small window is the moment Sahan tries to attack the basilisk eye, but the sword he threw didn't damage it. According to tradition, there are 2 weaknesses of a basilisk. One of them is a weasel. The basilisk Orga attacks Mina, she dodged it and started climbing Orga. The plan was to get Mina close to her eye and bite it so Orga couldn't use its petrifying gaze. She succeeded and gives Sahan to fight it without worrying about the gaze. Even though the basilisk can't use its gaze, her attacks are still deadly, even a scratch could be lethal. Both of them still have a plan on how to fight the basilisk. Orga keeps on attacking Sahan, and one of the attacks caught him off guard. He couldn't leap fast enough to avoid the next attack. But Sahan got another card to play. He snapped his fingers, signaling Mina to use her transformation skill to turn into a chicken and started clucking. That move stunned Orga, and Sahan used this opportunity to attack. He quickly sliced through her body but still couldn't damage Orga's skin. Orga the basilisk is surprised by Sahan's knowledge of its weakness, but she still knows that even with all that knowledge, he still can't defeat her and is just prolonging his inevitable death. Sahan kept on dodging all of Orga's attacks, but she noticed that Sahan's movement is starting to slow down and told him the big gap between them was due to being outclassed. While all of these are happening, Sahan is leading Orga to his last trump card. He knows that even from the beginning he can't beat her in just combat alone, so Sahan kept on thinking about how to kill Orga. In his first playthrough, Sahan experienced countless battles against opponents much stronger than him. He kept on thinking and analyzing the situation. Does it have to be overwhelming statistics? Power of the gods? Unique traits? They are useful, but he didn't get those on his first playthrough. Even through all that, not even the strongest man or the smartest genius could outlast him, making him humanity's only survivor. Orga suddenly attacked him, but he just smiled because all of this was part of his plan. Suddenly there are a lot of explosions in the Lome Tower. Sahan planted a lot of sticky bombs throughout the whole week, but Orga knows that even if she fell from a high place, it wouldn't kill her. There is another trick up her sleeve, the bracelet. When you equip the bracelet earlier, you can change its weight up to 10 tons. Sahan moves close to Orga and tells her that he only needs 2 things, experience and patience. The ground collapses on Orga, but she's still confident that no harm will befall her, and after all this, she will immediately kill Sahan, but she saw the spear down there pointing upwards. She still thinks that no weapon will kill her, but at that moment, the spear pierced through her body. Earlier, Juwan and the others, after setting up the spear on the floor, a beholder appeared. But a few moments later, the basilisk Orga came falling, landing on the spear alongside the beholder. Juwan and the others confirmed that both of the monsters are defeated, and suddenly a notification appeared, confirming that the main quest 2 is completed. Juwan got the silver tier achievement. He was surprised because he didn't do anything to defeat them, but he still got the silver tier. Another notification screen appeared, telling them that the next main quest will automatically appear after a set period of time. Sahan appears near them, and Juwan is surprised that he fought the basilisk but is unscathed. Juwan thanks Sahan because without him they couldn't defeat these monsters. Juwan understands that they can't just rely on somebody. After all, he knows that both Sahan and the Sins are strong and don't want to just survive because someone helps them. Sahan jumps down and takes the spear. He plans to venture into the city and tells the others that if anything happens, just call him and he will try to help them. Sahan understands that Juwan learned about his limits. He thinks this is a good experience for him and will help him survive until the 7th main quest arrives. He also forgot to ask who is Juwan's chosen god. Near the tower, Jisoo was happily cleaning her mace. Sahan asks her if she captured Don Juan and tells him that he locked him in the room because he's loud and irritating. It looks like they put the bracelet on Don Juan's neck. Sahan triggers the bracelet, changing its weight to 200 kilograms, and because of that, Don Juan loses his balance, falling down face first. Don Juan yells at him, "What did he do to deserve that?" "Really?" Don Juan is trying to ask such stupid things. Sahan then explains to him that the first is that he tried to get everybody killed in the gym in the first quest, and the second is that he tried to betray them by selling them to the Sins. Don Juan answers them that it still worked out in the end. He's an a-hole. Sahan told him that the bracelet looks like a collar for him and will act as a psychological punishment for him if he ever does some shady things again. Sahan presented him with an absolute contract. He must be sincere and caring from this point forward, or else if he ever betrays them again, that choker will explode. Of course, Don Juan calls them idiots, but Jisoo appears behind Sahan, staring at him menacingly. Don Juan then changes his tone completely and tells them he couldn't sign it because they didn't give him a pen. After he signed the contract, Sahan let him go. On the other side of the room, Jisoo is looking at her notification screen, and she told her that she got a gold tier from finishing the quest. Since they are at a party, Jisoo must have gotten a lot more points. It seems they will be separated at the moment because both of them want to go somewhere different, but they can still track each other's location. Mina asks Sahan about the reward he promised, and he gives her a stealth ring, a B-rank item that allows the user to completely hide. It can be used twice a day for a total of 1 hour per day. Mina was stoked to get this item, while Jisoo was a bit surprised. Sahan promised her she would give her a better item, but I think she's a little jealous because it was a ring. Sahan planned to venture to the city and farm some points. Since they finished their second main quest, a lot of observers are following Sahan, but there's another one, Mina. Mina explained that he chose to follow him around because he was strong, and maybe she can learn a lot of things from Sahan. While walking around, other players threatened them because they had already taken the dungeon near them. Sahan complied and walked away, but of course, he will still go into that dungeon by creating his own entrance. An honest life, the god of Don Juan, He's irritated because Sahan keeps on messing with Don Juan. Young Jester, the god of Mina, is just having fun with his reaction and with what's happening. Other gods are chatting about a good dungeon nearby, while Sahan is also in their room and confirmed that was the dungeon earlier. Sahan and Mina stopped in the middle of the road. He tells her that that was the place for the dungeon. Sahan used a skill called detection. The user searches the area within a 50-meter radius. He got this skill when he defeated the basilisk. Mina was confused because she didn't know what Sahan was doing. It looked to her like he was just walking aimlessly, but in reality, he was scanning the area and looking for the location of the boss of this dungeon. She told him that a quest zone is protected by special magic, and the walls can't be destroyed by physical force. Then he showed the Dungeon Destroyer's excavation drill, a drill that can be used in dungeon terrain, but the drill must match the dungeon grade. Sahan also applied the orichalcum to it. Sahan told her that they would take turns drilling but charge him for that. 5 hours later, they finally got to the dungeon drops, right in front of the boss and his minions. The plan is that Mina will handle the lesser mantis and Sahan will fight the boss mantis. Sahan uses the spear and coats the orichalcum, which significantly boosts its stats. One of the lesser mantises attacks Sahan, but he ducks and uses the spear to kill it. One after another, lesser mantises kept attacking Sahan, but he swiftly killed all of them. On the other side, Mina watches him defeat enemy after enemy, and she's surprised at how skilled he is. After defeating all the minions on his side, he reaches the boss mantis. He analyzed the boss since it was huge and would move slowly too. He threw the spear right into it, making a big hole in the boss chest, and with that, he killed the boss with just one attack. A notification screen pops up, telling him that he's the first player to finish a dungeon. He got 1,000 points, and the achievement the first experience hunter. Sahan was happy with the achievement, but he's not a particularly big fan of the titles. Sahan then looted the boss mantis and got Magic Stone F and Precise Strike E. Mina thought that was the only drop in the dungeon, but behind the boss is the treasure chest, which contains a lot of gold coins and items. 4 days later, the group that was guarding the entrance to the dungeon finally reached the boss room. Their chief shouts that the first reward is theirs for the taking. The group was having a rough time in the dungeon when they finally reached it, but after all that, it's already been looted by Sahan and Mina, leaving them nothing. Sahan entered the forum and saw TGIF, the god of the leader, who was supposed to be the first one to finish that dungeon, while the young jester was just laughing at him, maniacally. The jester just kept on laughing in his face. Then Sahan talks to them, informing them that he found a good dungeon. He told them that it was around Seoul National University, and there must be a C-rank item over there. An honest life god asks Sahan how he knows all of this and walks towards him. He keeps asking him questions, but there's a rule he can't just break. Other gods agreed to go to the dungeon Sahan mentioned. Sahan got a plan, and that's why he lured some of the avatars to that location. That place got good items, but they were practically useless. They were only good as bait. Sahan plans to tackle the third quest as soon as possible, but there's one more thing he wants to do before that, a constellation. They finally find a dungeon, but Sahan can't dig to the boss's location because this time it's much deeper than that. Sahan gave Mina a scarf that can block ranged attacks, and then the two of them ventured into the dungeon. After walking a certain distance, Mina realized that they were just walking in circles. Suddenly, somebody shot an arrow toward them, but the scarf blocked it. The scarf can block 5 ranged attacks, but it will automatically destroy itself after reaching 5 blocks. Sahan was reading the forum, and that's why he got a tip that someone is firing arrows in that dungeon. Mina asks Sahan if she can transform into something, and Sahan tells her that everything will still get hit except for one, and when he gives the signal, that's when she needs to transform. Sahan used an item called tracking threads. When twirled on an object, the threads spread toward the object's original owner. Sahan followed the thread and found a person wearing a black hood and wielding a bow. The guy quickly fires an arrow at Sahan, but the scarf blocks it, and only 3 hits remain. The bow-wielding person can use the Ranger of the Night skill, which lets him move quickly in dark areas. He can move inside his shadow and attack at the same time. Only one more time the scarf can block an attack before it breaks, then the Ranger pops up and attacks Sahan, destroying the scarf. Sahan almost reached the Ranger, but the Ranger is ready to shoot another arrow. If you enjoy this, please consider subscribing and liking the video. Thanks!